After the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, something strange happened in the markets of Moscow. Gold jewelry found few buyers. Families offered wedding rings and inherited chains for prices that would have seemed insulting months earlier. But garden tools sold for outrageous premiums. A quality spade commanded prices that exceeded monthly salaries. Wheelbarrows disappeared from stores within days. Families who owned proper gardening tools ate. Families who owned gold often went hungry. The mathematics were simple. You cannot eat gold. You cannot plant seeds with gold. You cannot harvest potatoes with gold. But one person with proper tools can grow enough food to feed 6 people. One person without tools can barely feed themselves. 9 specific gardening tools become more valuable than precious metals when supply chains collapse. Tools that require no fuel, no electricity, and no replacement parts. This is why you need them before everyone else realizes the same thing. Number 1. Broadfork. The broadfork replaces a gas-powered rototiller using nothing but human power. 2 handles, 5 to 7 steel tines, and leverage physics enable one person to aerate soil to 16 inches deep. No fuel required, no engine maintenance, no parts that break. Modern gardeners rarely own broadforks because rototillers seem more convenient. After collapse, rototillers become expensive paperweights. Fuel disappears, spark plugs wear out, carburetors clog without replacement parts. The broadfork keeps working decade after decade. One person with a broadfork prepares 100 square feet of garden bed per hour. The same person with an improvised digging stick might manage 5 square feet in the same time. That multiplication factor determines whether a family grows enough food to survive. Manufacturing a broadfork requires forged steel tines, precise heat treatment, and properly seasoned hardwood handles. No backyard blacksmith can replicate quality broadfork construction. When existing tools wear out, replacements simply do not exist. Post-collapse barter value for a quality broadfork equals 1 to 3 months of food supply. The tool that enables serious food production commands serious prices when production determines survival. Look for forged tines minimum 1/2 inch thick, ash or hickory handles. Replaceable handle option. Meadow Creature and Johnny Selected Seeds offer quality options that last generations with proper care. Number 2. Quality digging spade. Every garden operation begins with a spade, digging planting holes, edging beds, cutting through roots, moving soil, creating trenches. The spade serves as the foundation tool that makes all other gardening possible. Cheap stamped steel spades from discount stores bend on the first rock and break within months. Quality forged spades from reputable manufacturers last generations. The families who rebuilt European gardens after World War II used spades their grandparents had purchased decades earlier. Post-war documentation describes families trading gold jewelry for functioning spades. Precious metals held no value when food production determined survival. The tool that enabled digging commanded whatever price sellers demanded. Forged steel blades withstand prying and impact forces that destroy stamped alternatives. Heat treatment maintains edge sharpness through thousands of digging cycles. Socket construction or strapped handles survive forces that pull cheap attachments apart. One quality spade enables a family to establish and maintain a productive garden indefinitely. Without that spade, the same family struggles to plant even basic crops. Post-collapse barter value equals to 2 for weeks of food supply. Universal demand meets finite supply. Look for forged steel heads with solid socket attachment, ash or hickory handles with comfortable D-grip. Blade thickness minimum to millimeters. Spear and Jackson, Bulldog Tools, and Bully Tools manufacture quality that justifies the investment. Number 3. Stirrup hoe. Weeds destroy gardens faster than any other threat. Left unchecked for 2 weeks, weeds overwhelm vegetable crops and steal water, nutrients, and sunlight. Hand-pulling weeds across a family-sized garden requires hours of daily labor. The stirrup hoe accomplishes the same task in minutes. The stirrup design oscillates on a pivot, cutting weeds on both push and pull strokes. Sharp edges slice weeds just below the soil surface. The motion requires minimal effort compared to traditional chopping hoes. One pass through a garden row eliminates weeds before they establish. Daily garden maintenance becomes manageable with a stirrup hoe. 100 square feet cleared in 5 minutes. The same area cleared by hand pulling requires 2 hours of backbreaking work. This efficiency difference determines whether a family can maintain a garden large enough to provide meaningful food. Manufacturing the pivot mechanism requires precise metalwork impossible to replicate without industrial equipment. Heat-treated blades maintain sharpness through thousands of passes across abrasive soil. Improvised hoes cannot match the cutting action that makes stirrup hoes effective. Post-collapse barter value equals to 2-3 weeks of food supply. Daily necessity creates constant demand. Look for smooth pivot action without wobble. Sharpened edges on both blade sides. Replaceable blade option. Handle length appropriate for user height. Haas Tools and Valley Oak manufacture professional grade options. Number 4. Garden fork. Root crop harvest without a garden fork wastes food and destroys future productivity. Potatoes, carrots, beets, and turnips provide essential calories that families depend on through winter. Digging these crops by hand or with improvised tools damages roots and leaves significant portions rotting in the ground. For forged steel tines slide beneath root crops and lift entire clusters intact. Compost piles turn in minutes rather than hours. Established beds loosen without destroying soil structure. The garden fork serves functions no other tool can replicate. Post-World War II families valued garden forks equally with spades. Potato harvest determined winter food security. Damaged potatoes rotted in storage. Intact potatoes lasted months. The fork that enabled proper harvest determined family nutrition through cold months. One person with a quality fork harvests 50 pounds of potatoes per hour. Hand digging yields perhaps 5 pounds in the same time while destroying significant portions of the crop. The multiplication factor means eating well versus going hungry. Forged tines withstand the prying forces of lifting heavy root masses. Welded tines break under the same pressure. Socket or strapped handle attachment survives forces that destroy pressed fittings. Post-collapse barter value equals to 2 for weeks of food supply. Harvest capability commands premium prices. Look for forged heads with tines minimum 3/8 inch thick. Flat tines for root crops, solid handle attachment. Spear and Jackson and Clarington Forge offer quality worth the investment. Number 5. Hand scythe. Grain production at a meaningful scale requires harvest tools that improvised blades cannot replace. Wheat, oats, rye, and barley provide calories that vegetables cannot match. Dried grain stores for years without refrigeration. Families throughout history survived winters on stored grain harvested with hand scythes. The curved blade slices through grain stalks in sweeping motions that gather and cut simultaneously. Properly sharpened scythes move through standing grain like scissors through paper. The harvest that feeds a family becomes possible for a single worker. Without a scythe, grain harvest requires stripping individual seed heads by hand. 10 square feet per hour versus 100 square feet per hour. The difference determines whether grain production provides meaningful calories or wastes more effort than it returns. Manufacturing quality scythe blades requires high carbon steel, skilled forging, and precise heat treatment. The curved geometry that enables cutting action demands expertise to create. Edge sharpness must be maintained through regular honing, but properly made blades last for generations. This tool enabled human civilization. Grain agriculture fed growing populations for 10,000 years. The hand scythe represents humanity's oldest harvest technology and remains effective today. Post-collapse barter value equals 3 to 6 weeks of food supply. Calorie crop harvest capability creates highest demand. Look for high carbon steel blades. Comfortable grip angle, sheath for safe storage. Austrian blades from Scythe Supply represent quality standard. Number 6. Wheelbarrow. Moving materials across a productive garden requires transport capability that human arms cannot provide. Soil for raised beds, compost for fertility, mulch for moisture retention, harvested crops for processing and storage. The wheelbarrow multiplies human carrying capacity by a factor of 10. One trip with a loaded wheelbarrow moves for 100 pounds. The same load carried by hand requires 10 trips moving 40 pounds each. Across a growing season, this efficiency difference saves hundreds of hours of labor. Garden productivity depends on material movement. Compost must reach beds, harvest must reach storage. Debris must reach disposal. Without wheeled transport, these essential tasks consume time and energy that should go toward actual food production. Manufacturing a functional wheelbarrow requires wheel-bearing precision, frame welding equipment, and tray forming capability. The balance engineering that makes wheelbarrows pushable rather than tipping demands design expertise. Improvised carts cannot match purpose-built wheelbarrow efficiency. This ancient Chinese invention remains the most efficient human-powered transport ever developed. No modern innovation has improved on the basic design because the basic design already optimizes human capability. Post-collapse barter value equals 1 to 2 months of food supply. Transport capability enables production scale that determines survival. Look for steel tray construction, pneumatic tire for easier pushing, solid frame welds, replaceable tire and bearings. Jackson Professional and True Temper manufacture quality that justifies investment. Number 7. Pruning shears. Fruit trees and berry bushes produce food for decades, but require annual pruning to remain productive. And pruned trees decline within years. Diseased branches spread infection. Overcrowded growth reduces fruit quality and quantity. Proper pruning maintains the productive capacity that provides fruit for generations. Quality pruning shears cut cleanly through branches up to 1 inch in diameter. Bypass blades slice like scissors, creating smooth cuts that heal quickly. Damaged or torn cuts from dull or improvised tools invite disease that kills trees. Manufacturing precision pruning shears requires computer-controlled grinding for blade geometry. Spring mechanisms demand specialty steel, handle ergonomics developed through extensive research. The combination creates tools that perform professionally for decades with blade replacement. One fruit tree properly maintained produces hundreds of pounds of fruit annually. The same tree neglected produces little worthwhile fruit within 5 years. Pruning shears represent the difference between abundance and waste. Beyond fruit trees, pruning shears harvest vegetables, take cuttings for plant propagation, and maintain perennial plantings. The tool serves multiple daily functions throughout the growing season. Post-collapse barter value equals 2 to 3 weeks of food supply. Small size makes storage and barter convenient. Perennial food source maintenance commands steady demand. Look for bypass-style blades, forged construction. Replaceable blade and spring, comfortable grip. Felco shears represent the industry standard that professionals trust for lifetime use. Number 8. Bow rake. Seed germination requires smooth soil beds that only proper raking can create. Direct sown seeds need soil contact across their entire surface. Rocks, debris, and clumps prevent germination and waste precious seeds. The bow rake transforms rough ground into planting-ready beds within minutes. 14 to 16 curved steel tines pull through soil, removing obstacles and leveling surfaces. The raking motion breaks soil crusts that prevent seedling emergence. Mulch and compost spread evenly with simple backhand forth passes. Broadcast seeds cover properly with light raking. Direct seeding saves transplanting labor and produces stronger root systems. Many crops perform better from direct seeding than transplanting. But direct seeding only works when seed beds receive proper preparation. The bow rake enables this essential step. Manufacturing quality rakes requires proper tine welding, appropriate heat treatment, and solid handle attachment. Cheap rakes lose tines, bend under pressure, and separate from handles within 1 season. Quality rakes perform for decades. The difference between professional bed preparation and amateur roughness shows in germination rates. Properly prepared beds achieve 90% germination. Poorly prepared beds achieve 50% or less. Seeds become precious after collapse. Germination efficiency determines whether limited seeds become adequate food. Post-collapse barter value equals 1 to 2 weeks food supply. Common tool but quality varies dramatically. Look for forged or heavy welded heads, solid handle attachment. Appropriate time spacing for your soil type. Number 9. Metal watering can. Seedling establishment determines garden productivity more than any other factor. Transplants require careful watering during root establishment. Seeds need consistent moisture for germination. Drought stress during critical growth periods reduces yields permanently. The watering can deliver water precisely where plants need it. 2 to 3 gallon capacity provides efficient watering without excessive weight. Detachable rose heads create gentle spray patterns that water without disturbing soil or damaging seedlings. Metal construction survives decades of use that destroys plastic alternatives. Hose systems require pressure, connections, and infrastructure that collapse eliminates. Well water requires hauling. The watering can bridges the gap between water source and plant needs regardless of infrastructure status. Galvanized steel construction requires industrial coating processes. Seam welding prevents leaks. Rosehead manufacturing demands precision. Quality metal watering cans last generations. Plastic cans crack and fail within years. Watering 50 transplants requires 1 fill with a quality can. The same task using cups requires 10 trips to the water source. This efficiency determines whether transplanting at meaningful scale becomes possible. Post-collapse barter value equals 1 to 2 weeks food supply. Irrigation without infrastructure enables food production regardless of circumstances. Look for galvanized steel construction. Welded seams, detachable rose head, comfortable handle for full weight. Haas manufacturing since 1886 represents quality standard that justifies premium prices. 9 tools that require no fuel, no electricity, and no replacement parts. Broad fork, spade, stirrup hoe, garden fork, hand scythe, wheelbarrow, pruning shears, bow rake, and metal watering can. Total investment for quality versions runs between $400 and $1,000. Post-collapse value equals 6 to 12 months of food supply. No other investment multiplies value by such factors. The families who survived Soviet collapse, post-war Europe, and the Great Depression shared one characteristic. They owned tools that enabled food production when supply chains failed. Gold buyers discovered too late that precious metals provide no calories. Tool owners discovered that food production capability commands any price when survival depends on it. These 9 tools sit available at garden centers and online retailers right now. Supply chains still function, quality options remain in stock. That window will not stay open forever. Which tools are you still missing?